In this lecture, we're going to be talking about proteins. Proteins are super important. All the biomolecules are super important, but proteins are super important, okay? Proteins are going to do all kinds of different stuff for us. So let's start looking at proteins. So amino acids are made of a central carbon bonded to an amino group. Remember before I was talking about look for those nitrogens, okay? So something you should definitely know about proteins, the way you identify them is that they are made up of these chains of amino acids. So if you see a nitrogen in something that isn't pretty obviously something else, at least in this chapter, it's probably a protein. And what you're looking at is probably the amino group of an amino acid. Okay, proteins are long chains of amino acids. Write that down. Know that. I'm not going to ask you guys to understand or memorize what the amino acids are. That's for your biochemistry professor to do. But yeah, here's the basic shape of an amino acid. You have this R group here, which is what gives the amino acid its identity, and very often is what causes the protein to have whatever function that protein has. You have the carboxyl group here. So when you chain a bunch of these things together, when you stick a bunch of these amino acids together, that is what gives you a protein. So proteins have very specific sort of structures. They have primary structure, which is literally just the sequence of amino acids. The secondary structure is those things are going to either turn or coil back on themselves. Okay, and then the tertiary structure is after they coil and turn on themselves, they're going to fold up in a particular way. And then the quaternary structure is that different segments of amino acids are going to start interacting with one another. Different chains of amino acids are going to interact with one another. Is it important for you guys to know primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary structure? Probably not. But you should know that proteins are incredibly organized. And as hopefully we're going to learn about in lab, if you do what's called denaturing those proteins, write that down. Denaturing. Denaturing is basically just a fancy word for destroying a protein, but it's a word that you should know. If you get rid of any of these levels of structure, these proteins lose their function entirely. So these proteins are these incredibly ordered things within your bodies, okay? And you need to have them maintain those structures. So what do proteins do? I said they were important. They do a lot of things. Proteins make up antibodies, which I'm sure you guys have all heard a lot about recently, doing antibody tests for COVID-19. Okay, this is part of your adaptive immune system. All right, so you should know that proteins make up antibodies. We're going to be discussing enzymes in depth in lab very soon here. And basically, enzymes make chemical reactions possible. So please remember that proteins make up enzymes, and enzymes make chemical reactions possible. We're going to talk about how they do that later on. But for now, you should know sort of the logic of this, by the way, is that proteins have this very, very specific structure that they need to be able to maintain. In order to do things like help your immune system or to make chemical reactions possible. And if your body starts getting weird, if you change the pH of your body, if you change the temperature of your body, you're going to do that thing that I talked about earlier. You're going to denature these proteins. Okay, and the fact that proteins have all of these different functions, if you start messing with proteins, your body is going to start to break down because your body really needs all of these things. Your body needs to be able to defend itself. Your body needs to be able to make chemical reactions happen. Your body needs to be able to have these hormone messengers available to it. Your body needs structural elements for your cells, and your body's going to need to be able to transport things around your cells. We're going to get into some of these details later when we actually get into cells. But that's the logic here, okay? Proteins are very specifically structured and they need to be in a particular environment within your body. And if you start messing with that environment, you're going to lose all of these functions. Next, we're going to talk about nucleic acids, and I guess we'll do that in the next video.